Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to another Saturday evening of Embracing Boundlessness. We've got a nice crew with us tonight, and it'll be Desatu with us again tonight. And as I was just hinting at a little while ago with everybody, there's going to be a little bit of an addition going on today too. I know that there was a time when I talked about earlier in the process, like I don't know, a couple of years ago when I was channeling with the high vibe guys in the beginning. There were a couple different aspects of consciousness, I guess I'll just call them that, that made themselves known to me and sort of were where that energy was coming from. And in the past couple of days, I became aware of, I guess the way that I'll explain it is, and the way that it's been conveyed to me is one of the groups of consciousness that are associated with the concept of our dimension. And that is about, tonight kind of feels like it's going to be a two-part thing. One is along the lines of some of the challenges that people run into, and then another is along the lines of some of the, I guess in the moment, maybe I'll call them latent qualities that you might find coming to the surface. And that's really kind of getting fed to me as I say it. So we'll go ahead and again get started. And as we've done in the past, and as we've conveyed again to Chuck several weeks ago, our desire is not to express in sort of the formal format that we used to use, where there would be a distinct delineation between the expression of Chuck and our expression. And so, in that, we would begin in this way. So, you project energy, and that energy is reflected back to you in all the things that occur within your environment and within you. And then you either choose in response to that reflection or you react. And then the wave, shall we say, the back and forth of that motion continues. As you may well be aware, the particular dimension that all of you inhabit has as one of its key components and one of its most powerful influencers to the experiences that all of you have, a phenomenon that within the experience you term as. And if we were going to, in a general way, define beliefs for you, what we would say they are is a way for you to explain how it is and why it is that the things that are happening in your reality occur. Because, of course, within the experience of your dimension, being seemingly separated from the awareness and knowledge of the rest of who and what you are, you don't have the awareness that you simply create all the things that you experience within your reality as easily as you breathe in and out. And so within your reality, then, you need a story, shall we say, which each belief is. It's a type of story about how it is that that particular aspect of life comes about, why it comes about, how it should be interacted with, why it should be interacted with the way that it's interacted with. And from the time that, and this of course depends on the essence, the focused personality that's coming in. But from the time that you were being carried in your mother's womb, you were exposed to the beliefs of your mother very strongly, but also the beliefs of the family that she existed within and the civilization that she existed within. Because, of course, it's not just through the physical medium that you had those influences, but also through the energy that surrounded you. As you may be aware, all the things that you do through the influences of a belief of some type. You do something because you believe that it is right. You do something because you believe that it is wrong. You wear clothes because you believe that wearing those clothes will have a particular effect, possibly, on the interactions that you may have with other individuals. Or perhaps simply that those are the type of clothes that will work for you in perhaps weather like various individuals are having right now. You may have beliefs about what types of foods that you want to eat at various times of the day. You may have beliefs about how it is that you engage yourself in conversations in certain situations. You may have beliefs about what type of people enter into relationships and the reasons why they do that. And of course, the list goes on and on and on. Everything that you do in your reality, every action that you take, every decision that you make is influenced by the beliefs that you have that permeate this dimension. Now, we've mentioned before, as have others, that the work, if you want to call it that, of your shift is the neutralization of your beliefs. And again, what we mean by that is that you're moving to a point where it will no longer be an automatic influence of the idea of a particular belief that will then steer the way that you respond to situations. What you're going to do within this shift is you will move to a place where you will choose the type of beliefs that you want to use in all the situations that you're interacting with, and you will configure the reality around you from that place. The challenge within the process that you're all going through right now is recognizing your beliefs as that and not as a fact, not as a truth or other such similar things. Many of them exist so tightly woven through your societies that you don't even recognize that that's what they are. The existence of your planet, the existence of your solar system, the existence of the galaxies in your universe, and the existence of your universe are creations, symbols, beliefs that exist around you, shall we say, as is your physical reality as a whole. They are methods that you use to explain your experience to you. Because again, not knowing who and what you are, you're not aware that you're just bringing it into existence moment by moment by moment. So again, to become aware of your beliefs as beliefs, you put yourself in situations that typically you will find have some level of challenge to them, because they then aid you in focusing on how it is that you're responding to the situation, the circumstance, or the individual that presented themselves to you. Or the feeling state that you had in response to any of those things. And we've mentioned before that emotions are one of the foundational components of this particular physical dimension. Not all physical dimensions utilize emotion, particularly the way that all of you utilize it. You utilize it in a very, very, very powerful way. And you've experienced that in your own lives and then the lives of other individuals. And we've shared with you before that emotions have kind of a double edge in the way that they express themselves within your reality. One is as a foundational component of the experience of your reality. Another very prominent and powerful expression of emotions and the feeling states that accompany them are the information that they convey to you. In particular, about why it is that you're responding the way you're responding in the moment. And in that, the feeling state that is a component of the emotions that shows up, we'll say within terms of time, just a moment before you may express the emotion, is the part to really pay close attention to. Because it brings with it information. And then when you express yourself with that emotion, after the feeling shows up for you, what you can do is you can pay attention to which emotion did you express. Because, of course, that can help you to understand the beliefs that you're using. So in that regard, they are very powerful conveyors. And we've shared a little of that information previously, and we will do so again at some point in time. So as all of you collectively move deeper into this transition, you will find that you will bring more and more and more situations into your lives that help you to see the beliefs that can be hidden to you because sometimes you've woven them so tightly into the construct of your daily lives that you don't even recognize that there are beliefs about life. You see them as a truth about life, when in fact all they are is a belief about your existence, about a situation, about a circumstance, about the actions of an individual. And there are many. And you do this with yourselves to allow yourselves more freedom. Because again, in the recognition of your beliefs and in the recognition of how you choose to use them, because as you find yourself within a situation, as you find yourself in a circumstance, if you find yourself confronted, perhaps we will say, with an individual who is acting or expressing themselves in a particular way, your response can help you understand the beliefs that you're utilizing in that moment and to recognize, if you're paying attention, that they are beliefs. Because again, it is freeing yourself from feeling as if the beliefs are a strong wind and you are a dry leaf on the sidewalk and the beliefs are blowing you around the sidewalk. Instead, a metaphor that we've used frequently, it will become like you're walking into a very large walk-in closet and you're choosing the clothes that you want to wear. In that regard, you will choose the beliefs that you want to utilize moment by moment by moment as the situations in your life unfold. Now, we've mentioned in the past that you will choose to utilize beliefs that bring you what you will consider to be challenging situations still. But you will do it for reasons that bring you fulfillment. Again, from the position that you will find yourself understanding in greater and greater ways all the time, you will understand the value of all of your experiences and interactions, regardless of what they are. And even though life will generally flow much smoother for everybody, you will also at times choose dynamics between yourself and other individuals or yourself and the environment that bring types of challenges to you. Because, of course, within those challenges, provide you the opportunity to pull forward more of the resources, shall we say, that you can express within your particular reality. Now, at that point, you will not need challenges to do that in the way that, by and large, you use challenges in this moment. Because now, the tendency for all of you is that as you move through your life and you're having a pleasant experience, you don't typically draw more of your abilities from those deeper parts of yourself. And this time still, you usually do that when you have some sort of a challenging situation show up that asks you to pull more of who and what you are into your life, to then understand that situation, to then express yourself within the situation in the way that you choose to. And so you will continue to practice doing this as your shift moves forward. And it will mean that you will have challenges in your life. And this is to help you to understand how you have allowed the ideas of the beliefs to so heavily influence you in the way that you see your life and the choices that you make in your life. But in recognizing their influence, your ability to choose becomes heightened. Again, this is the primary action that all of you are going through on your planet right now. We will also mention this. In your interactions with other individuals, you've become familiar that, of course, you are not a singular being. You express yourself in many, many, many ways. Even we'll say it like this in the moment. Even with on your planet, in this moment, you have more than one version of yourself on this planet. In this time period, in your shifting time period, and in particular, now that your new millennium and your new century have occurred, you have chosen, all of you, to create even more versions of yourself, not that they look like you, but more versions of yourself, more aspects of yourself, and we'll term it like this, on your planet, so that you can experience more and more vantage points, more and more experiences as this shift progresses than you would have otherwise. Many or a number of those expressions can very well be expressing themselves in ways that you, as this version of yourself, would not choose to express yourself, because it allows you the fullness of the experience of a physical existence, which is what, of course, you are after here, is a fullness of what it is to have this type of an experience. In that, as Chuck mentioned a little earlier, through our connections with those groups of essences, and in the moment, the way we will express it will be who perhaps originally had the idea of your dimension and then brought about the movements and energy to begin to form it and then to manipulate it in a various ways until it became what it is that you experience now. a sort of, we'll phrase it like this in the moment because we don't want to make it too heavy, a type of vacation spot within consciousness, meaning a stopping point, a place, we'll call it a place for the moment, that can be experienced. Now, of course, it's been expressed in many different ways, and it's been experienced in all those ways. As you choose, as that aspect of yourself, that all encompassing you that understands itself as infinite, as you choose, as you made the choice to participate in the exploration of this particular dimension, you had basically two choices in that. One was to experience it, we'll phrase it in this way, as a foreigner. In other words, somebody who was visiting a place and had very little awareness in some capacity of what the place was. And in that, had from that perspective, perhaps we would say a little purer of an experience. In other words, the experience here of being sequestered from the rest of who and what you are, of being a physical being, was what quite a few essences were looking for when they came to this dimension. Then, what you could also do was you could create an aspect of yourself that was connected with these groups that originally formed the concept of this dimension. And carry that awareness and energy within you as you had the experience. It laid latent for most of your incarnations. However, for those incarnations that are involved in your shift, what you could choose to do, and what all of you here have chosen to do, was to utilize that connection and bring it to the forefront. In that, as you've done that, you've recognized at various points in your lives various qualities that have begun to come to the surface that you utilize and you find are, or you did find, were an ever increasing aspect of who and what you were. Sometimes you paid attention to them and built them from the time that you began to experience them. At other times, you immersed yourself in those energies for a while and then parked them in the back for a while and lived your existence and then brought them back forward. There can be various permutations of that. In that, you may find that you have a great inspiration to bring these types of ideas into your society and to share these ideas in your society. You may feel that doing that in an artistic way is something that you enjoy. You may instead feel that you like to support those individuals that are doing those types of things in society instead of you doing it directly. You may have found that your interactions with dreams have become very, very prominent. You do not have dreams like everybody else talks about your dreams. Your dreams are as if they are real existence. And the information that you gain there is quite profound. You may have found that as you walk down the street, you began to hear voices coming from nowhere in particular. or perhaps coming from the lamppost, or perhaps coming from the building you were standing next to, or perhaps emanating from a bird that lit on the branch that was near you. And you mentioned this to nobody because, of course, it's only crazy people that hear voices. You may have found that your interest in extraterrestrials became very, very, very powerful and other beings of that nature. You may have found that your interest in people like leprechauns, expressions like fairies, and things of that nature became very powerful for you and moved into the forefront of your expression. You may have found that your interest in listening to children and understanding in a very deep way and gaining information when they spoke of their imaginary friends and other things that were going on around them started to move to the forefront for you. You may have found that as you sat in the presence of an individual, that you seemed to have information about them and the things that were going on in their lives that just showed up within your mind. All of these phenomenon, all of these expressions that are uncommon, that used to be uncommon on your planet, are associated with ways in which these groups of essences, these groups of oversouls, if you will, whatever term you would like to use, who originally conceptualized this particular dimension, guide you and lead you, especially in times of your shift. You will find that if you look back historically, there are only a few people on your planet, sprinkled amongst certain cultures, that had these types of things that would show up in their lives. Now you understand, especially through the medium of all of your social networking, that this is a more frequent thing than it ever was before. Many hundreds of years ago, if an individual had died and then came back to life, that individual was considered to be quite special indeed. Now, in the last decade, you have had many, many, many cases of individuals who have died and come back to life within hospitals and other settings. It's becoming increasingly common on your planet. You're doing something else on your planet. You may be aware that when you finish your experience here, you move into an area of transition where you shed your beliefs and you shed what we've termed, and others have as well, the objective consciousness. Because, of course, in this experience, you interact with objects. In your non-physical form, that is not the way that you do things. So you shed that consciousness as well. And in that process, you interact with the experiences of your dimension in a simultaneous way. And so what increasing numbers of you are doing is you are beginning your transition while you're still on the planet. You may start it 10 years before you leave the planet. And these individuals will look at you and speak to you as if you're 7 years old. They will speak about individuals that to you happened quite so many years ago as if it occurred yesterday, because they are no longer using linear time. They are using the simultaneity of experiences as they express things, as they experience things. So you are thinning the veils around you at an increasing rate. And those of you who have an interest in your exploration are, of course, challenging yourselves in a variety of ways. And that, of course, depends on how comfortable you are with who you are, how comfortable you are with how you express yourself, how comfortable you are with being, perhaps in the moment, we'll use the word unique in society still. Even though, as you are probably aware, as a unique individual, that there are more and more and more individuals like this, of course, on your planet all the time, in far greater numbers than there ever has been. And we've shared with you before that this movement of yours, this transition of yours, this shift in the way you will use your consciousness has not occurred in your dimension before. It is a one-time event. And it is this physical dimension. It is those of you within this physical dimension that have chosen to do this. And there are many physical dimensions. This is not happening with the others. It is happening with yours because the others choose for it not to happen. You choose to do it within yours. And it will give you the ability to interact with other dimensions in a way that, at this moment, makes no sense to you. Unless, of course, you become quite adept at moving between physical reality and what you call dream time. Because it is very similar, the experience that you will have, to the experiences in dream time. However, what you will do is you will navigate, perhaps we'll use that term dream time again, in a knowing way. It won't just be symbolism that you're familiar with. You'll have an understanding of the environment. You'll have an understanding of how to move through that environment, how to shift and get experiences in different dimensions if you so choose to. There will be many freedoms that you have. And these freedoms, in a way, hinge in part on the process of the neutralization of your beliefs. And you will do this. The question is only, how big will the bumps in the road be as you do it? The more you're able to embrace change, the more you can trust all of you as you bring yourself experiences, the more that you can investigate those experiences within the context of your widening awareness as they show up in your life and question them from that perspective. As this occurs in my life, how does this help me to understand myself in a deeper way? How does this help me to understand the connections that I have with all individuals around me in a different way? How does this help me to move beyond perhaps limiting ways that I've felt about things, that I've seen things, compared to perhaps what I was doing a couple of days ago? What opportunities does this experience bring to me within the theme of remembering more of who and what I am? And of course, historically speaking, within the idea of linear time, which all of you are still quite familiar with, you've looked into your outside world and you've looked to your outside world to make sense of your existence. What you're going to ask yourself to do in greater and greater ways is to look within yourself to make sense of your existence. Because the way that you choose to live your life, the way that you choose to express your life, may be very different from individuals around you. You will no longer be in a position to compare yourself against other individuals and say that, yes, I'm expressing my reality like they are, which is where many people found a comfort historically for all of you. As you, in certain terms, strike out on your own, as you allow yourself to express yourself in a way that feels right for you, you're going to find that the road that you're walking is different. But of course, what you also have access to are many individuals now who are doing the same thing, although they may not be physically close to you. So you have, in essence, then, two flows of energy. You have the understanding of yourself as far as the beliefs that you have attached yourself to, that you utilize on a daily basis to make sense out of your reality, that in many ways you see as truths about your reality. And you have these non-physical aspects of yourself that are wanting to blossom and show themselves in a greater degree in the existence that you have on your planet. One of those is fading into the background. One of those is blooming and moving to the forefront. And there will be challenges, but within any challenge that comes your way is also the resolution of the challenge. It comes as a package. Whatever challenge you find yourself faced with, if you just pause for a short time and open yourself to the idea that the resolution, the steps to take, the movements to start to take within that challenge are also there in that energy, it will begin to make itself known to you because it is there. You bring yourself the challenge to move beyond it. You bring yourself the challenge to understand more of who and what you are in this time period. That's why you do those things. That was not the case in the century before that. Somewhat towards the end of that century. In this century, it's entirely what it's all about. Now, can any of you believe that it is something else? That it's just bad luck? That it's just that someone doesn't like you? That whatever it might happen to be? Of course, you can look at it that way. But we're going to suggest to you that that is not what it is. It is always an opportunity to understand more of who you are, to understand more of your abilities to choose, and to understand the freedoms that you actually have. So in that, we'll express that that will be all of what we will share tonight. But of course, if you have questions, if there's any things that you would like expanded upon, please feel free. And again, just put it in the chat that there's something that you would like to ask. Lucy, we'll start with you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I have the belief that you and I, Deseitu and I, are both separate and one. And I have also the belief that if you were to give the exact same message to me and to Chuck, we would receive it in our own self-created way. That is, we would create our version of your message. Is that Does that comport with your experience so far? I have a secondary question, an actual question from that.
Indeed. And in fact, as others had shared with you, this has always occurred. The audience is always taken into consideration. So, those individuals that you consider to be great teachers on your planet shared their messages in unique ways because the energy of the individual and the energy of, we'll just say in the moment, where that information is coming through forms a very unique expression. So as that energy moves through any of you, and as you express that energy, not only will you express that energy uniquely because that interaction is unique, but you will also express it uniquely depending on who it is you're expressing it with in that moment, because those individuals are also taken into account.
Okay, so it does, there's no reason then to try to develop ways to be more and more aligned with the actual message that we're receiving, as if there were an objective reality as to what that message is. Because of course, in truth, it's like coming from us for us.
Correct. So again, when this information is shared, as in tonight, we are in collaboration with all of you, the infinite you, as this information is shared. Were you to allow yourself, and some of you already do this, a little more freedom to listen to those deeper parts of yourselves, we will suggest to you that the way that it moves you will always be more powerful than the way that we can move you or anybody else who will share information with you. Because the connection that you have with yourself is more immediate than the connection that you have with us. Now, however, as we share this, none of you really hear the words in the same way. None of you really feel the energy in the same way. It's unique to each of you. Because as you're well aware, each of you express yourself in your own ways in this little journey that you have going on. It's never the case that what anybody has expressed is meant to be utilized by all individuals in the same way.
Thank you.
Indeed. Is there anybody else that has anything?
Well, I would ask a second question if no one has one right now. It's funny to me that in a lifetime of working with or considering at least deeply the concept of ancestral healing, it only recently occurred to me that this meant that in my own life, I had to look at the list of, some people call them the despicables in their own family lineage. Like in every family history, there's somebody who kind of stands out as a particularly bad person. I'm going to just use this word. I'm just going to paint with broad strokes here. I understand the concept of no bad, etc. But someone who kind of was the villain or appears to have played the role of villain in a family history. And so it really is quite recent that I realized, oh, actually, my first task here is to make a connection with that person and allow for healing myself with that person. And that has been really quite extraordinary. And I'm now calling it my conversations with my ancestors, having a wonderful time with that. And that's where I got this idea that this particular person in the family history could literally say, and they said this, they could say the same words to me or one of my siblings, and we would create something different from that. We would creatively receive that message in our very unique way. So it's been kind of fun to play with that. It kind of breaks your mind out of the mold of, am I being true to the message, or am I hearing it exactly right, or am I making all this stuff up? So it kind of just blows past all of that. Of course, you're making it up in the sense that you are creating, you are co-creating it. So
Indeed. And the word creativity is a very powerful word that you spoke. Because again, regardless of where you are and within this dimension, because this is what you're experiencing now, it is about creativity, which means the exploration of this dimension in all possible ways. If you have a group of individuals, friends, we'll say, or acquaintances, perhaps 10 for a number, and they live in the United States and they choose to go to, we'll just say Paris, and they're spending a week there. One of them may be infatuated with the restaurants. So they go to a different restaurant, sometimes two a day, the whole time they're there. And that's what they want to do. Others are about the theater, and it's all about the shows that they're seeing. Others are about the bars and what type of alcohol do they have? How drunk can I get with these very powerful spirits that they serve here? Others might be about other substances that you may find there, things that may be more difficult to find in the United States than you can find there, and they indulge themselves in those things. There's going to be all sorts of different experiences that draw those individuals into wanting to go to that particular place. This place is similar. This experience is similar, especially when you consider that really you cannot be harmed in the experience. So you can come here, you can in effect play, you can do whatever you want to do in any way that you want to do it. You can explore this idea of a seeming sequestering from the rest of who you are. You can live lives where you're deeply immersed in fear. You can live lives where you're deeply immersed in anxiety, all sorts of things. You can have many, many, many different experiences. Are they comfortable experiences from this perspective? No, they are not. Are they valid experiences? Yes, they are. Because you come to explore in all ways that you can explore. There are, in that regard, no wrong experiences had here. They are only experiences. From within the experience, are they challenging? Are they uncomfortable? Indeed, they can be, especially if you see yourself as a singular individual. We're going to suggest to you that and we're going to call it this just in the midst of the talk. One of the gifts that you will give yourself in this transition that you're all going through is that as you become familiar with the multiplicity of what you actually are as you express yourself here, the importance that you give to those types of experiences that you experience as challenging will fade away. It will not be what it is from the viewpoint of seeing yourself as a singular being. It will soften and it will melt away because you will understand the diversity of who and what you are. Not only that, but you will have an understanding of the immediacy of all the connections that all of you are making with each other constantly, continually, and the way that you share energy and experiences, which is a whole nother concept to explore, which we will not do tonight because it is not brief.
thank you.
Indeed. Is there anything else anybody may have?
For another time, I would be really interested if you could go around and identify a primary counterpart for each of the people in the room, just so we could start to play with that if we're not already playing with our counterparts.
What we will do next time is we will express to you the qualities of these originating essences of your dimension. And then we will allow you to look at your own existence, look at the leanings in your own life, look at the inspirations that you have, and determine for yourselves which of these groupings that you're attached to. And as we interact with all of you here have those attachments. All of you here chose, as you move into this dimension, to associate with those groups of essences. Some choose not to. Neither way is better. It is only a difference in experience. Your experience in this shift, especially in the early parts of it, are different than many other individuals are. As you look around your planet, you will see that many people are still living their lives in what you might call the regular three-dimensional way. You do not. That is not by happenstance. And again, it's not better. It's a different experience here than those that choose to have what we might call, again, a pure physical experience, a physical experience where these types of ideas don't necessarily muddle up the experience, shall we say. It is valid, as is yours, just valid in a different way.
Thank you. As you know, I love you.
We enjoy you immensely as well. Is there anything else? We know that we've, again, and we'll remind you that whatever we do verbally is only a part of the interaction that we have. The bulk of our interaction, of course, occurs in a way that we may see as behind the scenes. And so pay attention, if you will, the thoughts that begin to move up for you, the changes in perhaps some of the things that might happen in your day in the next 3, 4, 5 days, some things that may pop into your mind that are a little different than things used to before. And it's not us in particular. It's the result of our collaboration. And again, it's not because you, and by you we mean the larger you, we'll just say it like this, is not also familiar with all this information. You are. It's only that in this moment, you chose to have it presented to you in this particular way. And with that, we will once again say goodnight to all of you, and that we trust that your experiences and your explorations will be exciting for you.